Have you ever felt like just totally overwhelmed with how much information is out there? Like you're drowning in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
Well,
like a fire hose sometimes.
exactly. And that's kind of why we do these deep dives, right? To try to cut through all that and get to what really matters.
Yeah, go to the core of it.
Today we're going deep on something super important, especially when it comes to, sharing messages that really make a difference.
Yeah, we're talking about the power of your mother tongue,
Mhm.
like really thinking about the language that you think in.
And to help us unpack all this, we're turning to Barbara F. Grimes and her book, From Every Language.
Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's got this incredible background, years with Wycliffe Bible translators, living and working with the Huichol Indians in Mexico, helping them get a New Testament in their own language.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she was editor of Ethnologue for, forever.
Oh, wow.
And she's still at it. She's working on translating scripture into Hawaii Pidgin.
Seriously. That's so cool.
Yeah, so she brings a really practical and kind of unique perspective to this whole topic.
Yeah, it's not just theory with her.
No, definitely not. So what we want you to walk away with today is a better understanding of why the language that we use to communicate, especially these really important messages, isn't just about, convenience for the speaker.
Right, like just choosing the easiest way out.
It goes way deeper than that. It really impacts how a message is understood and, how it's received.
Like if it actually lands with the person hearing it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's jump in. We're going to start with this powerful image from Revelation 7.9. Picture this. A massive crowd, so huge you can't even count it. People from every single nation, every tribe, every people group, and speaking every language all gathered together.
Oh, wow.
Right? It's this incredibly diverse picture. And what Grimes really highlights is how this vision ties directly into that instruction to make disciples of all peoples.
Right, it's not just about going to different places. It's about reaching people where they're at, linguistically.
Exactly. And here's where Grimes gets really, she makes a really insightful point. She says that often when people are trying to share something really important, whether it's a spiritual message or any kind of significant information, they tend to choose the language that's easiest for them to speak.
Yeah, like they're not really considering the person who's listening.
Yeah, and it might seem, practical at the moment, but if we're talking about real understanding, genuine connection, shouldn't we focus on what communicates most effectively to the person who's hearing it?
Yeah, definitely. Makes you think, right? Like, are we really prioritizing understanding or just getting our point across quickly?
Grimes argues, and I think it's really compelling, that when it comes to reaching people who've never heard a message and building a lasting faith, ministry in their mother tongue isn't just better, it's crucial.
Totally. Like, it's the difference between just hearing something and really understanding it.
And that brings us to this idea of mother tongue disciples. So what does that actually look like, on the ground?
Well, discipleship, it's not just a one-time thing, right? It's a whole way of life.
Yeah.
And so much of that is tied up in language.
Yeah, like how we express ourselves, how we connect with God, all of that.
Grimes lists all these things that disciples do, and they all involve language, like getting to know Jesus deeply, sharing their faith, offering encouragement, praying, praising God, singing, all of it.
Right. And then there's the stuff that's maybe even more dependent on language. Memorizing important texts, teaching others, discipling someone else, even using spiritual gifts, things like sharing wisdom, prophesying, being a pastor or a teacher.
Wow, yeah, it's like every part of the Christian life.
And when you really break down what mother tongue means, it goes beyond just being the first language you learn.
Right, it's more than that.
It's the language you learn to think in, the one that shapes your values, your personality, even your sense of belonging with others who speak that same language.
It's like the language of your heart, in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And so Grimes challenges us with this question. Can someone really be a disciple in the fullest sense in a language that isn't their mother tongue? Can you really grow and flourish in your faith without that connection?
That's a big question.
It is. And it leads us to the challenges of communicating in a second language. I mean, even scripture itself, right, emphasizes understanding and knowledge.
Yeah, like Paul in Colossians, he talks about making the message clear.
And that clarity, you can imagine, is tough to achieve when you're not speaking your native language.
Yeah, there's always going to be that gap.
Grimes acknowledges that, yeah, you can plant churches even without complete clarity in the mother tongue, but she's adamant that it's not ideal, not for the long-term health of that community.
Right. It might work for a while, but eventually Something's got to give.
Exactly. And here's the thing. She explains why mother tongue scriptures are so vital for churches that thrive over generations. It's about sustaining spiritual depth,
Yeah.
grappling with complex ideas, even being able to answer false teachings.
Right, you need a solid foundation.
Yeah. And avoiding syncretism, which is where you accidentally mix Christian beliefs with other cultural or religious practices because your understanding isn't deep enough.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And Grimes points out that churches without that strong mother tongue foundation, they often struggle to reach others within their own communities. And it's harder for them to get a vision for mission work beyond their immediate context.
Yeah, it kind of limits them.
So, thinking about how we approach communication across languages, Grimes highlights two common pitfalls that we should be aware of.
Like shortcuts that don't really work.
Exactly. The first one is this illusion of adequate second language communication, especially in places where people are multilingual. It's easy to think, oh, they speak this other language pretty well, we're good. But,
But it's not always that simple.
Right. Sociolinguists have shown that multilingual people don't use their languages interchangeably in all situations. It depends on the context, who they're talking to, what they're talking about.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so just because someone can hold a basic conversation in a second language, it doesn't mean they can grasp complex theological ideas or the emotional nuances of a message in that language.
It's like there are different levels of fluency.
Exactly. And Grimes cautions against assuming someone's bilingual proficiency based on just a few interactions. You really need to look at how different groups, based on age, gender, region, education, how they actually use their languages in daily life.
Makes sense. You got to dig a little deeper.
Yeah. And there's an ethical element here too, right? If we're trying to reach everyone, especially those who might be marginalized, we have to be really careful about these assumptions.
Yeah, you can't just assume everyone's on the same level.
The second pitfall Grimes talks about is this language broker model. That's where you rely on a bilingual person to interpret the message, basically translate it on the fly.
Ah, like a go-between.
Exactly. Seems easy, but there are some major problems. First of all, very few people have the training and experience needed for accurate translation, especially with something as nuanced as scripture.
Yeah, it's a real skill.
And often, second languages are learned informally, so people might not have any formal translation skills.
So you're relying on them to kind of wing it.
Right. And that raises some serious concerns, especially with something like scripture. Is it accurate? Is it consistent? There's no real quality control.
Yokes. You're putting a lot of trust in that one person.
And Grimes points out another potential downside. It can accidentally create a kind of bilingual elite within a church. Only those who speak the second language well are considered for leadership, even if others have amazing gifts but just haven't had the same opportunities.
Yeah, it can create a real divide.
So what's the solution? Grimes is clear. Prioritize ministry in people's mother tongues. And that means Bible translation. It might be challenging, it might take time, but it's absolutely necessary.
It's about the long game, not just quick fixes.
Exactly. And it's about approaching communication with people's needs in mind. We want to see mature discipleship, thriving churches, a vision for reaching others.
It's about empowering people, not just giving them information.
Right. It's about recognizing that partial understanding by a few isn't enough. The goal is flourishing communities of faith, praising God in every language, just like Revelation described.
That's a beautiful picture.
It is. And Grimes gives this fascinating historical perspective on the need for translation. She talks about how Ethnologue was created back in 1951 to identify where translations were needed. By 74, they'd cataloged all the known languages.
Wow.
But even as recently as 2008, there were still like 2,500 languages that needed surveys. And historically, about 5 out of 6 languages that were surveyed ended up needing Bible translation.
So there's still a huge need out there.
Huge. Grimes points out that there are over 5,000 languages spoken today that don't have a complete Bible or New Testament in a language that speaks clearly to them.
That's a lot of people without access to scripture in their heart language.
It is. And if you look at the historical timeline, it's amazing to see the progress that's been made. But that figure, over 5,000 languages, it's a stark reminder of how much work remains.
It's a call to action, really.
So as we wrap up, the takeaway is this. Real understanding, lasting impact, it's tied to communicating in someone's heart language.
It's about meeting people where they are.
Grimes reminds us that as communicators, our focus should always be on whether the person receiving the message truly understands, even if it means more effort on our part.
It's about putting their needs first.
So, as you go about your day, think about the power of language. It shapes our identity, our understanding of the world, our
It's
connections.
pretty powerful when you think about it.
It is. What happens when vital messages that could bring hope and change, aren't available in someone's heart language?
Yeah, what are we missing out on?
And what responsibility do we have to support efforts to bridge these linguistic divides? It's a question worth pondering.
Definitely.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
So yeah.